Welcome to today's Veroscope of Caitlin Albert, who we're going to be doing the Veroscope on today. This is a witness in the Karen Reid trial. If you're new to the Commonwealth versus Karen Reid trial, Karen Reid, this is Karen, and she was tried twice for the murder of a Boston police officer, John O'Keefe, who was found dead on the lawn of this girl's father, Brian Albert, who was another Boston cop. And we're going to listen to her today, and we're going to be doing forensic linguistics and statement analysis. So we're going to be looking to see if there are any deception clues in her language, and if there are deceptions and lies, where, and let's see if we can find them. We're going to be doing it in a way where we run through some of the impossibilities, some of the deceptions first, and then we'll watch the video and see if you can spot them in real time. So the first one are what I'm calling the four circles, where Caitlin claims that she saw nothing unusual on the front lawn, where there should be a dead cop, a 6'2", 220-pound dead Boston police officer on the lawn of Brian Albert, a fellow Boston police officer. But if there wasn't, if John O'Keefe was inside the house dying, perhaps he had been sick on himself, according to the autopsy, and maybe they needed to move him out into the snow. And how long would it take him to die in the cold? All of these questions that the trial exposed. So seeing nothing unusual on the front lawn is extremely important to all of the witnesses, because if any of them who left the house saw the dead cop, then of course the whole narrative falls apart, doesn't it? So what we see from all of them is, it's the old, one was tying their shoelaces, the other one had their hands cupped over their eyes and was only looking at their feet. As soon as they were in the car, none of them looked out the car window or saw the law. It's that sort of thing, where every single witness goes along with the "I saw nothing, I was asleep in the back of the car" argument that every police officer has probably heard throughout their entire career. Anyway, they're trying to pull this one. We did the analysis, didn't we, of Tristan the other day, and he said, "I wasn't staring at her grass." He said it out of the blue for some strange reason, which I found amusing. So Tristan's excuse is he wasn't staring at her grass, but this witness, Caitlin, has got other excuses. So she exits the front door, doesn't see the dead cop, walks to the car, doesn't see the dead cop. They're backing out of the driveway, doesn't see the dead cop. They're driving away past the flagpole where John O'Keefe should be, and she says she doesn't see him. So look out for that in the analysis. Look out for the way that she uses vision and watching her step. And also look out for, and we'll go through these in more detail, look out for the snowfall claims that she says, and what would be impossible had John O'Keefe been on the ground with snow falling around his body, and again, them not being able to see that as they all left the house. Also look out for any linguistics that Caitlin uses that show that she knew John had arrived or John had entered the house, or when people left, or in what order. Has she also been briefed the same way Tristan had? Don't talk about timelines, deny you know anything about time, never give a time for anyone else, don't upset their timeline, don't talk about what cars you saw or where you parked, be very vague about those sorts of things. Everything else, just talk about the truth, where it's safe to, but no time and no cars. Same brief that Tristan had. So look out for that too. Right, let's play the tape. And for those who have been following the Veroscope channel, which pretty much every day we do an analysis now where we look for gaslighting. And if you're learning with us, do comment what you see in this particular analysis. And I'll look forward to respond to those in the comments. So let's play the tape.
Thank you, Ron. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Sure. Caitlin Albert, CAITLINALBERT.
And where do you live, ma'am?
I live in Easton,
And how long have you lived there?
about 3 years.
Who, if anyone, do you live there with?
I live with Tristan Morris, my boyfriend.
And you and Miss Morris, about how long?
Married
have you
now.
been dating?
Almost 8 years.
Now, prior to living in Easton, where was it that you lived before that?
I lived
He's married
in Canton.
into the family now.
And specifically, where in Canton did you live?
34 Fairview Road.
I guess they
And
can't
how
grass
long
each other
was
up
it that
now.
you lived at 34 Fairview Road?
Geez, I lived there from about 2011 to 2021.
And that was a family home, is that right?
Yes.
And who did you live at 34 Fairview Road with?
My mom, my dad, and my 4 siblings.
And your mom's name is Nicole, is that right?
Yes.
And your dad or your father's name is Brian Albert?
Yes.
And how
We'll
many
do
siblings did you
Nicole
have,
this
Brian?
week.
I have 4.
Are you the oldest?
I am.
And do you work?
I do.
What do you do for it?
I work for the Massachusetts Attorney General's office in the Medicaid Fraud Division.
So is she connected to
And how long
Morrissey
have
and
you
all
been
the
doing
rest
it?
of that crew?
Almost 3 years, I think. In September, it'll be 3 years.
Now, ma'am, if I could, excuse me, turn your attention to January 28th, 2022 to January 29th, 2022. Do you recall that time frame?
I do.
And do you recall what days of the week they were?
I actually am not sure that I recall the exact days of the week. Maybe Friday or Saturday.
Fair to say around the weekend time?
Yeah, weekend, definitely.
And
I see she's
as
wearing
far
a
as
cross.
your family is concerned, the 29th, what, if any, significance is that day?
That would be my brother's birthday.
Didn't Jen
And which
McCabe
of your
try that
brothers
same
was-
trick?
Which of
The
your
cross?
brothers is it whose birthday that was?
Brian Albert Jr.
And is beyond Brian Albert Jr., just for sake of my own lack of confusion, is there some
Maybe
other
they've
name
borrowed it from
that
each
you would
other.
call him as far as differentiating him between your brothers?
Little Brian, sometimes, even though he's not so little.
Okay. And so during the course of that week, sort of leading up to the weekend, what, if any, discussion did you have with your mother or anybody else in your family in regard to little Brian's birthday?
So leading up to that weekend, I was aware that my brother might have like a friend or two over the house for his birthday. And then I had spoken with my mom and my aunt, Julie Albert, about maybe going to a local Canton bar, grabbing some food and some drinks, and just kind of seeing where the night takes us, and then maybe ultimately going back and seeing my brother for just to say happy birthday, kind of end the night that way.
See where the night takes
As
us.
the week went along, what, if
Unusual
anything,
phrase.
sort of affected or changed plans in reference to that?
Nothing that I can really think of. Nothing really changed. I mean, that was sort of, I don't remember exactly how the plan came about, that we were going to, go get food and that my brother was going to have friends over, but I believe that was always sort of our plan.
She hedges a lot, doesn't
And so specifically on the 28th,
she? Sort of
at
like,
some point you came
I
to
believe.
Canton, correct?
Yes.
And do you recall?
So we put in
how you came to
flags
Canton and,
when we see these
where was it
linguistics.
that you went first?
So I can't say for sure.
Can't
From
say
what I
for sure,
remember,
in goes the flag.
I believe
What I
that
remember,
my
in goes the
boyfriend
flag.
Tristan and I
believe, in goes the
went
flag.
straight from Easton to the waterfall and actually got there before my mom
Actually,
and my aunt
comparison
Julie.
word, in goes the flag.
From what I can remember.
What I
And
can
then
remember, in goes the flag.
my mom and Julie ended up meeting us there. And that's when we sort of started just kind of like
Sort
hanging
of,
out, ordering
kind of
food,
like,
some
2 more
drinks.
flags.
And we were there for a little bit, just the 4 of
A
us.
little bit, in goes another flag.
And, do you
So
recall about
if anyone
what time
told
it
me
was
that
you got to the
wasn't
waterfall?
true, I would go,
Unfortunately, I can't remember an exact time, but it would have been around like dinner time. So
Deception.
if I had to guess, maybe like 6.
And as far as drinking was concerned with that night, you're at a bar and you weren't driving, correct?
Oh, yeah, no, I was not driving.
And do you recall specifically what kind of drinks you had or what you had to drink that night?
I believe that night I was drinking White Claw, I think.
And your boyfriend, Mr. Morris, as far as what, if anything, was going on with him that night, as far as how long was he at the water?
Yeah, so we were aware that it was likely going to snow that night. So my boyfriend Tristan had gotten offered to do some like plowing or shoveling. So he knew that he was going to have to probably be up for the majority of the night into the morning doing some shoveling. So he didn't stick around at the waterfall for too long. I think he had some food, maybe like 1 or 2 drinks, and then he actually ended up going home.
Tristan says she's high
And
maintenance.
you stayed at the waterfall after he went home?
I stayed there, yeah, with my mom and my Aunt Julie.
And if you recall, as far as that evening at the waterfall,
look
what, if
at high
anything, was going
maintenance
on
to me.
as far as like live entertainment?
I want to say that there might have been a band. I just don't want to say for sure, but I think I do recall a band coming in and setting up, and yeah, I think that there might have been one.
I think there might have been.
Now, as far as
Did she get there late or
progressed and went
something?
on, who, if anyone else, came into the waterfall and sort
Was
of
there a
joined your
different
group when
plan?
you were there?
Sure. So I can't say for sure like times of people arriving or order of people arriving, but I know at one point my uncle Chris Albert, he ended up joining us. He owns a pizza shop across the street. So when he was done working, he came and joined us. And then my aunt Jen McCabe and her husband Matt McCabe joined us. And then at some point, my father, Brian Albert, and his friend, Brian Higgins, also joined us. So at one point in time, I'm not sure the order of which, everybody came in or the time that they came in, but at some point we were all kind of there hanging out.
Okay, at some point.
And your father and Mr. Higgins, do you know where they had come from or where they were coming from?
Yes, I believe they were coming from New York from a funeral. And I remember I had asked my mom, like, is Dad going to stop by? And she was like, I don't know. He's tired. He's coming back from New York. And I was like, oh, I want to see him. So I think I convinced him to come. And then Brian Higgins just kind of tagged along from what I can remember.
Brian's been
Now,
demoted
as
to
far as Mr.
tagging
Higgins was
along.
concerned, is that someone that you were familiar with prior to this evening on the 28th?
I knew of him and I had met him a couple times, but nothing
Higgins,
more than
that
that.
And as far as you're aware, the house that you, for lack of a better term, grew up in or spent some formative years in, had Mr. Higgins ever been over to that house at 34 Fairview when you were there?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know.
Now, at some point later in the evening, who, if anyone else, came and sort of
She's
came up to
distancing
your
from
group
Higgins.
and joined you while you were at the wall?
So from what I can remember, I remember sitting at like a high top table, and it was me and my mom sitting next to each other, and we were facing like the front door of the waterfall. And I recall a man and a woman walking in, and at first I didn't know who either of them were, but I noticed that the man started talking to like some of my aunts and uncles that I was with, and he seemed friendly with the people that were in our group. So I had said to my mom, like, oh, who is that? And she said, oh, that's John O'Keefe. And I had known of him because I knew his story about his niece and his nephew and his family. So I had known of him, but had never met him before. And so then I just assumed that the woman that was with him was his significant other, girlfriend, wife. I didn't know. So then, I didn't really speak to either of them. I think at one point, John came up to me and my mom and asked, like, do you guys need anything? Do you need a drink? And we said no, and that was pretty much it.
And so when you say you knew of John O'Keefe and sort of his story as you related, do you recall how it was that you came to know anything about Mr. O'Keefe? Or who was it through that you came to know about Mr. O'Keefe?
Well, in general, it was kind of like a known thing. The tragedy of what happened in the O'Keefe family. And so I had just kind of heard that story. And then on top of that, John O'Keefe's niece is either the same age or around the same age as some of my younger cousins. So I knew that she was friendly with them. I knew that my Aunt Jen McCabe would like help out here and there, going to sports, going to different events, whatever. I know that my Aunt Jen was friendly with John O'Keefe. And I knew that my Aunt Julie and Uncle Chris were somewhat friends with him as well.
And just to be clear, when you're talking about some of your younger cousins, the younger cousins you're speaking of, who are their parents?
So the younger cousins that I'm referring to would be the McCabe girls, and their parents are Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe.
And they were present at the waterfall that evening as well?
Jen and Matt were, yes.
Now, with reference to Mr. O'Keefe and his significant other that you described, had you ever met them prior to that evening?
I had not to my knowledge. I wouldn't be surprised if there was maybe like a sporting event or something where we, met each other in passing, but I had never formally met John or the woman that he was with.
So she doesn't mention Karen at all by name, does she?
You had never met, nor were you aware of anybody by the name of Karen?
No, I was not.
And if you know, about what time was it that they came into the waterfall and came over to you?
I can't say for sure. I'm not sure of time.
But fair to say, the other people that you testified about, as far as your uncles and your aunts and things like that, were they all there at the time that Mr. O'Keefe and Miss Reed came in?
I believe so. I believe that everyone who was there in the group that I was with was present when John O'Keefe and Karen Reed arrived.
And about what time was it that things started to wind down as far as the waterfall was concerned?
Again, I'm the worst with times, but I would say it was around like 12-ish that we kind of said, let's kind of head out and head home. I would say 12-ish, approximately.
Now, during the course of the time that you were at the waterfall, either before or after Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed arrived, how would you describe sort of the mood or the demeanor of the group that you were with?
I mean, I didn't notice any issues or any negative things happening. All the conversation seemed positive, lighthearted. Everyone was just kind of having a good time, getting along. I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary, really.
So no issues as far as fighting or tension between your group, is that correct?
That's an interesting word, isn't it? Seemed. So she said it seemed that way, which means that she's aware that it wasn't now. Or isn't now. It seemed that way. It's interesting, isn't it? I'll have to look at that in more detail. It seemed that way. So she's telling us that she's aware that there was tension, that there was an undercurrent. And she's aware now, but during that evening she wasn't aware. Well, the murder hadn't happened then, so she wasn't, but it seemed that way. It means that she's aware now that there was. Isn't that interesting? Just that one singular word, seemed. I'll look into that in more detail. I'll have a longer think about that.
Correct.
And as far as you saw, with regards to Mr. O'Keefe and Ms. Reed, no issues as far as fighting or tension that you observed between the two of them?
Not that I observed.
Not that I observed.
And when you, around 12-ish or so, when you started to leave, who was it that, how did you come to leave and who did you leave with?
So I left with my mom and my dad. And again, I'm not sure the order of when like everybody else left. But I went with my mom and my dad back to 3450.
The order of when everybody left the waterfall and the order of when everybody left the Albert home is important to the witnesses.
Fairview Road.
And if you recall,
because they can all never remember.
From the waterfall to 3450.
My dad.
And about how long a drive is that from the waterfall to Fairview Road?
I would say like 5 or 6 minutes, give or take.
And when you arrived to the house at 34 Fairview. Do you recall where your father parked in relation to the house?
From what I can remember, he parked in the driveway. The driveway.
And
That's
if you
been
know
discussed
about how
and
many other
confirmed
cars
as acceptable.
were in the driveway when parked?
I'm not sure. I know there was at least like one or two, but I can't say for sure. I just don't really remember how many were in the driveway at the time.
No.
I had like
Cars
younger siblings in college at the
parking
time who
and
would sometimes
time
take some of the cars, so
are off
I just don't
limits.
remember for sure.
And if you know, essentially, there within the driveway, there's a
Cars
garage at
and
the end of the
parking and
driveway.
time
Is
is
that
off
correct?
limits
Yes.
for everybody.
And there's door on the left, door on the right. Is that right?
Yes.
And do you recall whether or not your father
By
pulled in the
coincidence.
driveway on the left side or the right side in relation to those doors?
I don't remember.
No, don't remember
And
that.
when you came into the house, do you remember how it was that you came from the vehicle to the house?
Yes. From what I remember, I went in the front door. So I would have gotten out and walked on the brick path over to the front door area, walked up the steps, and then walked through the door that enters into like a foyer area.
And just to be clear, sort of when you walk into that front door with the foyer area, what if anything's right in front?
So when I first walked in, I actually had seen my cousin Colin. He was standing in the foyer area. And I remember I said to him, like, "Oh, hi, what are you doing?"
Next question. Not what you said to me. Next question.
There's a little confidence amongst the witnesses at this stage, isn't there? There's a confidence that the judge, the prosecutor, the police, we are the police. There's that sort of confidence from all of them. But the house of cards is going to come tumbling down.
Taking you back to sort of when you're exiting the waterfall and when you're exiting your parents' vehicle and walking into the house, what, if anything, did you observe as far as the weather at that point?
I remember at that point, snow was definitely coming down, and I could tell that it was like progressively getting worse.
And so you walk into the home in the front foyer area, that's where you run into your cousin Colin?
Yes.
How is Colin related to you as far as, how is he your cousin?
So Colin is Julie Albert and Chris Albert's son. So he's my first cousin.
And when you walk in, you sort of bump into him. Where was it that he was?
He told me that he was headed.
Not what he told you. Where was he going?
To my knowledge,
Auntie
he was going
Bev to the
home.
rescue.
Oh, wow. Next question.
Next question.
From the time that you walked in and bumped into Colin, sort of
Don't annoy
home,
my
how
cousin,
long was it that he was in the home
witness.
while you were there?
I would say
No, how long was he in the home when you were there?
minutes.
And from your group, this includes yourself, your mother, your father, is that correct?
Sorry, what was that?
From your group, when you enter the home, that includes you, your mother, and your father, correct?
Yes.
And who, if anyone else from the waterfall, arrived at your home around the same time as yourself, your mother, and your father?
I believe that Brian Higgins was the next to arrive. I think he very shortly after came inside, after myself, my mom and dad.
Okay. So we have a linguistic error there. We have cognitive overload. The objections and the I'll allow it and the just carry ons has destabilized her to some degree, combined with a difficult question. And she started to talk, and she's made an error. It's not completely indicative, but she talks about Higgins and when he entered the house. And she talks about Higgins entering the house after an event of some sort or after something, and then she self-censors and tries to give the impression that it's after in terms of geographic location and time with her parents. Let's listen to that again.
And so when Mr. Higgins comes into the house at 34 Fairview, are you already in the house? Yourself, your mother, and your father. You, your mother, and your father. Correct?
Yes.
And Who, if anyone else from the waterfall, arrived at your home around the same time as yourself, your mother, and your brother?
I believe that Brian Higgins was the next to arrive. I think he very shortly after came inside. After myself, my
Very shortly after came inside. So she's referring to something and then tries to make us think that she's referring to
mom and dad.
mum and dad.
And so when Mr.
After
Higgins
Mum and
comes
Dad.
into
Interesting,
the
isn't
house
it?
at 34 Fairview, are you already in the house?
I was already inside, yes.
And so do you have any idea what Mr. Higgins was driving that
So
evening
how
or
would
where
you
he
know
parked
that?
it?
I do not.
And then once you come into the house, when you come into the house, where is it within the home that you go?
So I walked in through the foyer, and then I took a right turn, which leads into like the dining room area. And that's where my brother Brian and two of his friends were just sitting around the dining room table. So I said happy birthday to him and was just kind of hanging out in there for a little bit.
Okay, so it's vague, but it's normal, and it's what happens at parties. You go in, you say happy birthday, and you pour yourself a drink, and you hang out for a little bit. But then what happens? Because you can't say you just keep doing that.
Friends that you observed in that sort of kitchen dining area, the friends of your brother Brian, little Brian, what were their names?
Sarah Levinson and Julie Nagel.
And were those people that you were familiar with prior to this evening in January 28th?
Yes.
Familiar with them as their friends of your little brother?
Yes, exactly.
And with regard to the house, after yourself, your mother, and your father arrived, and then Mr. Higgins after that, who, if anyone else from the waterfall, came to the house that you saw?
My Aunt Jen and my Uncle Matt McCabe.
And when your Aunt Jen and your Uncle Matt McCabe arrived, where was Colin?
Colin had left by then.
Objection. And when Mr. and Mrs. or your uncle and your Aunt McCabe come in, where is it that they go within the house?
So they have to get Colin out of the house for some reason, don't they? All of them are sensitive to Colin's timeline and removing him from the house before John O'Keefe arrives.
I believe they did a similar thing. They either entered through the dining room or through the kitchen area, but the dining room and the kitchen are like open floor, kind of all the same room. So we were just all kind of hanging out in that area.
And
so we notice the continuation of her deceptive language patterns, the believes, the kind ofs, etc. If we were marking up the document, we would mark up the document in blue with reasons why, so words like because and so, etc. And we would mark up the document in other colors, so sometimes green for time. And if you want to see how marking up a document happens, look at some of the earlier VEROSCOPE videos. We're spending less time on that now, assuming that you already know. So I'm not pointing out every single deceptive marker, otherwise we wouldn't be able to progress to the more advanced areas. So do go back and have a look at some of the earlier VEROSCOPes if you want to learn how to mark up a statement.
If you know about how long a period of time were you at your parents' house on Fairview Road that evening?
I would say an hour 45, latest 2 hours, but around like an hour and a half, an hour 45. Yeah, I can't say for sure. It's an estimate.
And for the balance of the time that you were there, were you in that same sort of kitchen dining room area?
Yes.
And what is it that you were doing as far as you and the group doing in that area of the house?
We were just kind of hanging out. I remember that my mom had grabbed like a small speaker and put some music on. We had a couple drinks and everyone was just kind of like having a good time, hanging out. We said happy birthday to Brian.
Yeah, you said that.
And that was kind of it.
And Ms. Albert, at any point in time when you were let me ask you this first. As far as the sort of demeanor or mood within the house, similar to how I'd asked you at the waterfall, did any of that change once you returned back to your parents' house at Fairview Road?
No.
So everyone getting along, no arguments, no tension, anything you observed?
Correct, yeah.
Now, beyond the people that you just described, did anyone else come into your house, or into your parents' house that evening while you were there?
No.
And specifically, Mr. O'Keefe and/or his significant other, Ms. Reed, at any point in time while you were there, did they come into your house?
No, neither of them ever came into the home.
Now, with regard to the people that you were describing before.
So did you notice that she had a change of language from the question there? He said house and she said home. So we note when there is a change of language. A change of language can be a significant event, a change of emotion, a change of psychological meaning. So she changes from house, which was the prosecutor's language, to home. And she mentions home specifically. So I wonder whether or not that's because she wants to tell the truth as far as she can, and the incident occurred outside of the home. And Higgins came in after that incident, perhaps. Okay, let's carry on.
At any point in time, did the people in the kitchen dining room area, any of them leave that area of the house?
I think when my mom, my dad, and I first got there, I believe my dad went upstairs to grab the dog to let her out. So he did that, and then I think there was another period of time where my dad might have been showing, or maybe my mom or my dad were showing.
Yeah, I've noticed this with the other witnesses as well. They do this pretend, oh, well, let me see, I can't quite remember. Oh, yes, that's right. They were in the other room looking at photographs of such and such who was in the Marines, don't you know? And they all do this same little narrative to get Albert and Higgins out of everybody else's space and doing what they're doing. And they all come up with this little story about how they trotted off together holding hands to look at photographs.
Brian Higgins, like family photos of one of my brothers who's in the Marines. So that would have been in like the family room area, which still is like there's an open doorway, so it's not like the door was shut or anything. But other than that, we all kind of stayed within that dining room kitchen vicinity.
Other than that, we all stayed.
Now, with reference to the dog, that was a family dog, is that right?
Yes.
And your family had the dog when you still lived on Fairview Road with your parents?
Okay, so she's telling us that at some point in the evening, Higgins and her father have disappeared and they're doing something. But don't worry, the doors aren't completely closed.
Yes.
And what was the dog's name?
Chloe.
Poor
and
Chloe.
With respect to letting the dog out, can you describe to the jury sort of what that process entailed? Was it on a leash or?
Chloe's been rehomed, apparently.
Sure. So we had like a fenced-in backyard, and we had a back door. So we would just kind of open the back door, let her out. She would kind of do her thing, and then she would come back in when she was done.
And your father took care of that when they got home from the waterfall that evening?
Yes.
In the family room that you were talking about, where your father and/or your mother and Mr. Higgins were, as far as the photographs, where is that in relation to the dining room kitchen area, and specifically, can you see into that area from the dining room kitchen?
Into the family room?
Yes.
Yes. So there's just sort of like it's like a doorway, but there's no door there. It's pretty open. And if you're standing in the dining room or the kitchen, you can see into the family room for the most part.
Now, you at that point were not living at the address on Fairview Road, is that right?
Correct.
And as far as the people that...
So have you noticed it's important for her, as part of her story, to let us know that even though Higgins and her father are missing, you can see in to these private places. It's important enough for her to mention it twice.
Were at the house who did not live at the Fairview home on that night. Who was the last person?
I was the last person to leave.
Were you?
And prior to your departure from the house, sometime hour 45 or so after you got there, can you describe the order in which the other people that you just described were there? What order did those people?
I don't remember the order in which everybody left, but I do remember that Sarah Levinson, Julie Nagel, my aunt Jen, and my uncle Matt, they all left in one car, and then Brian Higgins left. But I just don't remember the order in which it was probably within like a couple minutes of each other, but I just don't remember exactly who left first. And then I left pretty shortly after everyone else as well.
Now, during the time that you were hanging out in that dining room kitchen area of the home,
the house had to be evacuated.
Was your attention drawn to the outside of the house? Did you hear anything, see anything outside the house?
I did not.
And with respect to the front area of the house, at any point in time, was there any discussion that you recall about anything going on in that area?
Including poor Chloe.
I don't recall a discussion going on about anything happening out front, except for at one point,
No, let me hear her answer first. Except for what, at one point?
At one point, I remember that Julie Nagel's brother was supposed to pick her up. So I knew that there was some communication where she told him, never mind, you don't need to pick me up. You can go home. I'm going to go home with Jen and Matt.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Now, with respect to your aunt, Jennifer McKay, what, if anything, do you recall her doing with, do you recall her having a cell phone that night?
I do.
And what, if anything, do you recall her doing with respect to
Jen McCabe's cell phone?
I remember at one point we were standing in the kitchen and I had noticed she was on the phone. And I remember she said something to the effect of like, oh.
No, not what she said.
Okay.
So next question, Steve.
At some point, did you see her talking on the phone?
Auntie Bev to the rescue.
And at some point, did you see her appear to be texting on the phone?
I'm not sure about texting. I definitely saw her speaking with somebody on the phone, though.
And at some point, where did she put her phone in relation to where you guys were in the kitchen and dining room?
I'm not sure.
Are you supposed to say in the back pockets? We've been through this.
Recall
she forgets her lines.
Charger or anything like that in that area of the home?
I don't.
Now, as far as who picked you up from the house that night?
My boyfriend.
And Mr. Morris came to the house in Fairview Road and picked you up at some point, about an hour and 45 minutes or so after you arrived there, is that correct?
Yes.
And recall what Mr. Morris was driving on that particular evening?
I remember that he actually was driving my car, which is a 2019 white Jeep Cherokee.
The word actually is comparison.
What kind of car did Mr. Morris have at that time, if you recall?
At that time, he had a very old, I want to say like 2012 Ford Taurus. So that's why he took my car, because the Taurus wouldn't have been good in the snow.
And how was it that you came? Did he call you, text you? How did you know that he was there?
I believe that we texted, and
I believe that we texted. That's interesting.
That's how I was informed that he was out front.
That's how I was informed that he's out front. This is the boyfriend, Tristan. She's informed. I see. So Tristan sent her a text. Or Daddy says, okay, out you go. He's outside now. Take Chloe with you. Something's happening. Something's happening here.
So you receive a text, something to the effect of here, and then you go outside?
Yes.
And when you went outside, if you recall, what was the weather like when you were coming out of the house?
When I walked outside, I remember, again, the snow was coming down a lot. I remember like sort of trying to watch my step because the stairs.
I remember, like sort of trying to watch my step. This is the point where she is not allowed to see a dead cop on the lawn because there isn't one, but there should be one. So her language, assuming that she's aware that the murder has occurred in the house, will start to become unusual and strange and deceptive if she is not just a witness to nothing, but is part of the conspiracy. Let's see how her language changes.
In the brick path were pretty snowy, and I didn't want to slip. So as far as weather, yeah, I remember it was actively snowing, and I was trying not to slip, and that's pretty much.
So trying not to slip is sensitive. She says it twice. So immediately coming outside of 34 Fairview, she enters deceptive and sensitive language patterns. And I think it's because she's going to claim that she didn't see the dead cop on the lawn, because there wasn't one. But there should be one.
What I can remember.
And do you recall where it was that your boyfriend, Mr. Morris, parked the car in relation to the house when he arrived?
I believe he parked in the driveway.
So you would have come down the steps, down the walkway to the driveway area, correct?
Yes.
And who drove from Fairview Road to back home that evening?
Tristan did.
Now, if you recall, when Mr. Morris, I'm assuming, backs out of the driveway, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
When he backs out of the driveway,
Quickly check.
where does the vehicle go in relation to the house?
We went up Fairview Road, so towards the flagpole in our yard.
And so towards the flag.
So imagine it. There's been a murder in the house. John O'Keefe's dying or dead. They're Googling how long does it take to die in the snow. They're planning to drag him out into the snow once they've evacuated the house. What an absolute nightmare. And then this young girl calls her boyfriend, says, "You've got to come and get me. I'm no longer staying here." He turns up. They shove the dog in the back. What an absolute nightmare. She doesn't need to think at this stage about not seeing John O'Keefe dead on the front lawn because he's not there yet. They haven't dragged his body out there yet. They need to get rid of everyone in the house first. That's what I think's happened.
Pole with the passenger side facing the house, is that right?
Yes.
And if you recall, as Mr. Morris is driving away from the home, what, if anything, with respect to the weather, did he have to employ within the car?
I remember the windshield wipers were on, and I remember he was driving very cautiously, 10 and 2. And I remember thinking to myself,
they've practiced that one, haven't they? 10 and 2. Like he's a good boy driver, and she notices that he's such a good boy driver.
The snow is coming down pretty hard.
And as you drove past the house, were you looking outside or looking at the house or the front lawn area of the home?
I was not. Once I got inside the car, I was mainly, my attention was on him.
Okay, so mainly the attention is, so this is to excuse why she doesn't see a 220-pound Boston police officer dying on the front lawn. It's because she was mainly paying attention to Tristan. And I suspect mainly not looking out of the window. Let's see what else is the other reasons.
And we were having a conversation, so I hadn't been looking out the passenger window towards my house at really any point.
At really any point. Okay, so for those of you who have been following VEROSCOPE, your understanding of deceptive language patterns should be strong by now. And you'll see immediately she's just gone into classic deception. She's making up why she can't see something that is not even there yet.
So your head was turned towards your boyfriend who's driving the car to the left of
Oh,
you
that's
as he's
why.
driving away from you.
Yes.
Yes, that's why I didn't see the dead cop. Yes, I was mainly paying attention to
Nothing
him.
further on.
Okay. Mr. Yannetti?
Okay, so Mr. Yannetti is now going to come in and do the cross-examination. But I think that's for another day. We're going to do that tomorrow. So we've come to the end of today's Veroscope. If you enjoyed this, or you learned anything, or you're interested in learning more about forensic linguistics and statement analysis, do subscribe. We're doing a free lesson or example every single day. If you want to go into more detail and do a more formal course, do consider joining the Veroscope YouTube channel as a member. And there are two levels. One is buy me a coffee each month, and some of the free training is in that level, and I'd very much appreciate it if you considered that one. Or there's the higher level where we're running through a more formal course. If that's of interest, do join that as well. But first, watch a dozen or so on YouTube. Watch the actual Veroscope analysis examples. Make sure that it's a hobby or an interest or a skill set that you would really like to learn. I do recommend it, because being able to tell if someone's lying to you is a wonderful skill set in life. It's very therapeutic as well, because it allows you to look back in the past and see where you might have been deceived in the past, and it just makes it that little bit easier to deal with, knowing how and why, and that it won't happen so easily in the future. So consider the memberships. Other than that, do comment, please, do like, do share, and I look forward to chat to you in the comments. Okay, have a wonderful evening and weekend. Have a wonderful weekend too.